Hi everyone, thank you for listening to my presentation about meta-analysis and deliberative democratic evaluation. The first approach I want to talk about is meta-analysis, and the purpose of this approach is to comb through a body of literature, and rather than producing a novel study, you actually comb through all the literature to find strong trends in a given field and in a given narrowly focused research study. And it's actually it yields very strong conclusions. And this is indicative of a quasi-experimental approach because, again, you're not validating a novel study findings, but rather you are focusing on one or two questions to appeal to the greater body of literature to find trends across all those studies. So really, in this case, the sum becomes stronger than just that individual study. Some of the advanced organizers are a slew of similar treatment programs that you look at through the body of literature to produce reliable and valid results. And usually the questions are policy oriented, and the purpose is really to find defensible conclusions that can be compared with the previous study conclusions, including unpublished studies. And then the design is a principled study design and statistical analysis execution to yield those reliable and valid results. The sources of questions usually come from policy groups who want to make informed best practices and best policy decisions. And the questions are typified by what is the average effect of a given intervention across a set of studies that were completed to determine the intervention's effects compared to the effects of other treatment conditions, or how significant in both statistical and practical terms are any observed differences between average effects of the different treatment conditions. The methodology is always quantitative, and again, it's focusing on analyzing reports across the body of literature, then analyzing treatment upon a group of subjects in just one study that would be a brand new study. So a brief history. This was first introduced by Carl Pearson, who appealed to the literature and aggregated the findings to find conclusive evidence for supporting the typhoid vaccination. And the term meta-analysis was coined by Gene Glass, who called it the analysis of analyses, because meta means to think about, and analysis in this case means to study or some sort of inquiry. Some use considerations are several research repositories have chronicled best practices for conducting meta-analyses. So it's good to appeal to them because their field of topics really spans the wide continuum. And nearly all federally funded and non-federally funded research repositories rely almost exclusively on the results of these meta-analyses, again for informing their best practices. So the strengths of this is that you're relying upon peer-reviewed findings, and it's a highly feasible approach. H.B. Hadich, a medical researcher, said that the outcomes from a medical analysis may include a more precise estimate of the effect of treatment or risk factor for disease than any other study contributing to the pool analysis. However, the weakness of this is that journal bias is such that typically you only have studies published that have statistically significant differences. And other important studies that don't have those same findings might be lost in the shuffle. Additionally, this is not a comprehensive evaluation, but rather is an outcomes-based evaluation. The deliberative approach is a form of social agenda and advocacy evaluation because it's really focusing on societal institutions contributing to this notion of democracy through finding reliable and valid claims. Some advanced organizers and also the purpose of this is representative participation, discussion that includes stakeholders' ideas and input, and deliberating to arrive at defensible conclusions, which is very similar to, this is the only thing that's really similar to meta-analysis. The sources of questions come from both the evaluator and the stakeholders, and they seek to understand the perceived merit of a program and its worth to the stakeholders. This is a qualitative style, unlike meta-analyses, and This was first introduced by Ernest House and Kenneth Howe, who stressed that the democratic process of discussion, debate, and deliberation needed to be the vehicle to reach that defensible conclusions. The evaluation use consideration is whoever funds the evaluation needs to yield a lot of power in order to receive input from the stakeholders and also to allow them to help in the conclusion drawing process. And representatives from each of these groups must be willing to participate throughout the length of the evaluation process. Some strengths of this is that it's a direct attempt to make the evaluations just and also to get at the heart of the issues that people collectively care about. The weaknesses, though, is that the democratic nature of the approach makes it difficult for clear conclusions to emerge. And also, it's more of an ideality rather than a reality at this moment, which makes it difficult to draw any sort of conclusions. As far as the Rupes case study, the deliberative democratic evaluation approach would actually seem to be ideal, but it's not valid enough to really draw those defensible conclusions. And considering the nature of Rupes being a federally funded program and the precedence of high quality evaluation conducted through a meta-analysis, I would actually recommend the meta-analysis. Okay, and these are the references that I've used. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to hearing your reports. Thank you.